Hey guys, so welcome to Up the Coast with Alex and Britt. We are just coming off of our long week of the ACC tournament coverage that we had in Charlottesville. We just finished show Sunday and we are in Bristol now. So it's been a crazy week. So much fun. We are here in person, although it does look like we've
I
done
know.
this
I'm actually there.
divide, but we're here. So much fun, so much coverage, so much to dive into. Congratulations to all the 8 teams from the ACC that made the NCAA tournament. Congratulations to Florida State on taking home the ACC tournament championship. It's been a hell of a week. We've had an absolute blast covering it. There were so many good games.
Yes, before we get into the sliding, I don't know, but you look fantastic.
Oh, thanks. We do have our hair and makeup done.
I know.
And we are going to enjoy a nice little glass
I
of
think
wine
we
while we're
deserved
doing
it.
Yeah.
Cheers. And cheers to you, Taylor.
Taylor, we miss you, girl. Literally.
So you said there were 8 teams in. You had Florida State, Duke, Virginia Tech, Stanford, Clemson, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Louisville made it in. Before we dive into those, the one team that didn't make it, Carolina. My Tar Heels, which were right on the bubble. They needed to win that game against Clemson in the tournament. They did that. They jumped Georgia Tech and RPI going into it. But I think it came down to their strength of schedule.
Mhm.
And then they had some bad losses on the year, right? They had Boston College as a loss. So I hate it that offense is too good not to be in the NCAA tournament. Tar Heels are not in it. So let's talk about the teams that are. You want to start with your Noles?
First State got the 9 seed overall. Would you feel like they were a little slighted? So they will be a host for a regional tournament, but if they advance through their regional and make it to a super regional, they should theoretically be traveling if chalk wins, meaning the ranked teams in the regionals.
I learned that word.
We did just learn what that phrase means this week. Chalk is the seeded teams that should win on paper if they're advancing. So that is.
Speaking of, that's one of the reasons UNC didn't get in, because South Alabama beat Texas State, right? As we continued with Florida State.
Right. So then all the things are crazy. So Texas State did still get the at-large bid, but Florida State got the number 9 seed, the tournament. So they will be hosting Stetson, Jacksonville State, and UCF. I feel like this is a very hard regional because of UCF. I covered UCF all year long and they're legit. This is the best offense. If not one of the best, it's like top 2 or 3. It is the best in UCF program history. They've got 4 hitters with double-digit home runs. They have the most RBIs between a collective group of hitters that they've ever had in program history. They're doing all the things, and then they're really good in the circle. I think I say the one benefit for Florida State, unfortunately for UCF, their number 2 pitcher went down early mid-season with an ACL injury, so she's been out of commission the entire time. But they do have a really good ace with Isabella Vega. So Florida State hitters are going to have to be on it.
So when you watch UCF, like, what is it that you think can challenge Florida State? How's that gonna go?
I want to say they're very similar teams because UCF has worked really hard to be a complete team. So now more than ever, they're hitting for power. They run the bases aggressively, which has not necessarily been their game in the past. And then their defense is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's as solid as Florida State. And then, of course, in the circle. So all sides of the ball, they're fundamentally good. Florida State's just going to have to play that much better. And, on paper they are, but UCF could really give them a run for their money.
So you know these teams really well, like better than anybody in the country.
Probably
honestly.
these 2, yeah.
UCF always gets sent to Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's advantage UCF or advantage Florida State? Because UCF could be like, oh my God, not again. Like, we haven't made it out of this regional ever again. Or could it be like, all right, we know what to expect. We know the crowd. We know what Florida State is. They haven't played each other this year, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So where do you think UCF's mindset is?
I think a little bit of everything, because I think personally I'm disappointed because I want to see both of these teams advance, obviously not together. But I think there's a familiarity and a comfortability for UCF. I think there's probably a discouragement of like, man, I'd like to go somewhere else. And so that's the catch-22. But I think that there's a sign of hope and like a glimpse or a sign of life for UCF, just because like, okay, we have been there. We do know it. And this is something that we can do. So I think now more than ever, they're confident. And I think if you're Florida State, I do think you're a little bit nervous. It's kind of like way back when like USF would also always come to Florida State, and you had really great pitchers on staff at the time. You're like, damn, like, why are we getting such a good number 2? So that's what I think both of these teams are probably feeling right now.
That's fair. I think that's accurate. We can also talk about Florida State not getting a top 8 seed and UCLA getting that top 8 seed. Florida State, they win the regional and UCLA wins theirs. Florida State will go out to LA and have a chance to, a little redemption, a little to you, the selection committee. Looking at the metrics with Florida State and UCLA, I have them written down somewhere, but they had the same amount of top 25 wins. I think UCLA had 3 more top 50 wins, but the non-con strength of schedule for Florida State was better, way better than UCLA. And then if metrics are so close, let's go head to head. Florida State beat UCLA head to head back in February. I know February is a long way away, but if the metrics are so close, why does head to head not matter? Like, that drives me absolutely nuts that UCLA, who lost the Big Ten conference championship, who, and RPI says the Big Ten is below the ACC in rankings. The ACC's 3rd, Big Ten is 4th in RPI. They don't win their conference championships. FSU does, and then FSU beat them and is the 9 and the 8 seed. So,
and they used one of what phrase did they use when the selection committee was saying why they chose UCLA? They were like, we just feel like they're
better top 25. We haven't gotten
a
chance to watch it because you're on the second half when they're explaining it, but you said that it was better top 25 wins?
Yeah, better top 25 wins, which what does that even mean, I guess? Because it's not more. So they're just saying the quality of the wins of the top 25 for UCLA were that much better than Florida State, which is funny because the wins that Florida State had were UCLA, were Florida, which is a top 5 team, or well, it was at the time. Virginia Tech is another one.
And they're both 7 and 8 with the top 25. Like, if you look at the sheet that the selection committee uses, very close. UCLA edges them out by 3 in the top 50 wins. They don't have any bad losses, either team. Florida State non-con strength of schedule, much better than UCLA. And then head-to-head. Why doesn't head-to-head matter?
I don't know. I think it's crazy.
Drives me nuts. We can go out, or Florida State can go out. They take care of business. UCF's going to be tough. Go to LA. Ball flies there.
And I feel like it's the smallest park in the country.
190 down the line.
It is insane.
And Grant just set the home run record with 37 home runs. 38. Yep. And we were both talking to Jess Mendoza in the makeup room today, and she was like, I just think Lonnie can fool Megan Grant and Jordan Blurry. Like, she can do it. We'll see. I hope they get that chance and take it home to OKC. All right, the next team that's hosting is Duke.
Yep. So really good stuff from Duke. They got the overall number 12 seed, so they will be hosting Howard, Marshall, and Arizona. This one is super interesting, I think. Arizona coming all the way for a regional.
Huge.
Make it make sense. But yeah, it's just super crazy. Arizona and Duke, you feel, Britt, are very, very similar teams in how they play and what they're doing with what they have on their rosters.
I do. I think that they both have like one pitcher that they rely on. Obviously, Duke is Cassidy Curd, and Arizona, it is Jalen Adams. Yep. Like, those are the one pitchers that they need to rely on. But you look at what they've done in the past few weeks, like, Duke has just been on the up and up. Arizona's been on the down and down. They lost the series to Utah, and then they lost first round to Arizona State. Like, that's not a good feeling right now, but they both hit for power. Arizona has the Big 12 Player of the Year with Sydney Stewart, and then they have some speed with Reagan Shockey and Serenity Trice, just like we have Deanna Jennings and Amina Vega.
And Tyrena Jones, and literally.
But and then we have the power. We have more power. They have Sydney Stewart, and then we have Tyrene Jones, Jess Oakland, Layla Gabby Shattuck, KJ Mathis. Like, I think the power in Duke's lineup definitely overpowers what Arizona has to offer. But I really think the fact that both teams only have like one pitcher they can rely on, it's going to be really interesting to see.
For sure. It's going to be probably a high-scoring game, but venture to guess. Yeah, Duke's, to your point, the one pitcher with Cassidy Curd, I mean, they do have other arms. They've got Mallory Wheeler, Lottie Hawkes, Kiki Mathis, all the things. And they've been really crafty with how they've utilized their pitching staffs. And that's
Ava Bradshaw.
Ava Bradshaw. And I think that Coach Young has been fantastic at managing the staff with what they have. And I think that that's been a big reason to their wins. They beat Tennessee about a month ago, and that was huge. There's also the hitters. The hitters are stepping up. They score a lot of runs every game. I think they average like 7 or 8 runs per game with what they've done offensively. And of course, like you said, you did it like a whole fun video over the ACC tournament of all the different table setters. You did it, yes. Brittany is the mastermind behind our stuff. But Deanna Jennings at the top is one of the best leadoff hitters in the country, I think. The way she plays the game is so competitive. Amina Vega, All-American, multi-time All-American. Jess Oakland has been fantastic. I have here in my notes that the last month alone, she's hitting almost 600. She's hitting 596. She's had 28 hits in the last 4 weeks. So just insane what she's doing. I do think a big part, you mentioned Tyrena Jones and the power that she has. I look at what she's done power-wise the last month, and of course, season, she's fantastic. She's got 20 bombs, but I would like to see a little more consistency from her for Duke to be feeling really good, because I think that when they're their best, they're firing on all cylinders, and she's a huge part of that. And so I would love to see the consistency from her going into postseason, because I think she's going to be a game changer. Jess Oakland is red hot. Just want to keep seeing it throughout the rest.
Yeah. And just thinking about the game they lost at Virginia Tech and swinging out of the zone so much. Like, they were really fooled by that Mazzarone off-speed rise ball. Like, I have not seen them chase like they did in that game. But we talked to Lonnie the next morning, and she was like, Maz gets that pitch off the plate, like, she's really deadly. And I feel like I didn't think about that. Like, they were chasing because she was getting that call. So I don't think you can really take into account, like, just because they had one bad game. I think maybe the strike zone definitely had an implication into that. So I think make sure we swing in the zone, and we're just fine.
Agree. That'll be big. So I feel like Duke is kind of actually similar, just in a spot, to a Stanford, and we'll talk about them in a minute, but just with their main opponent only having that one arm. So if they can get to the main pitcher with Jalen Adams, I feel like Duke could be sitting really pretty to head into a super regional.
Yeah, they could have. And you mentioned it earlier, like Arizona coming to the East Coast, that doesn't happen.
It's crazy. I feel like it is hard to travel.
I will tell you that Taryn used to tell me they went to regionals at Hofstra as the number 1 seed back in the day. So think about how far. Now we're like seeding 1 through 32, but they were the 1 seed and went to Hofstra back in.
I'm bad at geography, but that makes no sense.
I think it's somewhere.
It is.
It's far
from yours, right?
Yeah. Okay. But we think Duke got slighted. They have a great matchup with Arizona. It's going to be a lot of runs, possibly, but we think obviously Duke's a better hitting, deeper lineup. And they're playing better in the last months.
And they're playing at home.
Yeah,
it's always
and they are paired up with Arkansas, which kind of reminds me of that Missouri year when they went to Missouri and then made the World Series. Arkansas, Dakota Kennedy got hurt. She's still swinging it, but Robin Heron's their pitcher. But let's get to regionals first. Yeah, we'll talk about that. All right. The next team who is not hosting, which I think is a little bit surprising, especially after making a championship game, is Virginia Tech. They are going down to Baton Rouge, and they'll be joined by Akron and South Alabama. How do you feel about that?
South Alabama is always a tough opponent in general, but the whole LSU thing, I think LSU and Baton Rouge is a whole different animal. I think that's my biggest concern, is this is a Virginia Tech team that has all the pieces. We've talked so much about the clutchness. I think LSU is going to apply a pressure just because of the fan base. And I think it feels like people are on top of you. And we've had that conversation this last week. Even it felt like the Virginia Tech fans coincidentally were on top of you in some of the games with how well they travel. I'm a little nervous for that. I'm a little surprised at LSU getting a top 16 seed, to be honest.
I think there's a little bit of recency bias going on with LSU. I mean, they had a good streak for a while, but imagine the LSU softball fans and the Virginia Tech.
Oh, God. No, that's crazy.
Hopefully the
Virginia Tech is intense.
Yes.
It's intense.
And so is LSU. And that one fan with the wrestling belt behind home plate, he may meet his match with the Virginia Tech this weekend. I think with LSU, they have Jaden Huebner, and as of late, Peyton Monticelli coming in really big for them in the circle. But we saw this weekend when Bree Carrico maybe she wasn't available, maybe she was, but Maz started. And then they brought in Avery Layton, a freshman. She was still in 71.
Super impressive.
And Florida State off everything. Not only do they have Maz, they have Carrico and Avery Layton. And I think that's a huge advantage. But are we going to see the Virginia Tech team that can't come through on the road? Like I just keep replaying UCLA in my mind with Keely Rochard. Like they had it. They had it right there, and then it didn't go. Is this the year? Because they finally have 3 arms, right?
Right.
I think so.
I think they definitely could. And you look at the matchups, like this is an LSU team that doesn't really hit for power that well, knock on wood. And they've got 54 home runs on the season, and they're really, I think, prompted right now by a couple of hitters who aren't that hot. They find ways to win, and that's what makes them so competitive. And this is a Virginia Tech offense that is the most powerful offense in the ACC, one of the most powerful offenses in the country. Over 100 home runs. I think they're almost at 100 doubles, if not over, as well. So they swing the bat really well, complemented by a deeper pitching staff. And we don't see deep pitching staffs a lot right now across the board. So for them to have 2 to 3 viable arms is super encouraging.
I think LSU's not happy about that. I do want to bring up our producer, Brian since we didn't get to watch the second half of the selection show tonight, sent us this tweet that Natalie Honan, the selection committee chair, said the NCAA denied Hokies' bid to host. Graduation is next weekend and hotels in 30-mile radius are limited. And she said, quote, they did not meet the requirements to host. That did not come into our decision of the top 16 seeds. What do you say to that?
If it didn't come into the decision making, why mention it?
Why are we talking about it?
I don't know.
I
don't know. That was weird.
But they would pair up, since they would go to LSU as the 16th seed. They would pair up with Bama, which they're very familiar with. VT was at Bama last year, played them very competitively. Bama's having a year that I don't think anybody expected, but they do have Belmont in their regional this year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
It will be.
What they're able to do there.
It will be. All right, going next is Stanford. They are headed down to Stillwater. Oklahoma State is the 13th seed. They have Eastern Illinois, Princeton, Stanford, and Oklahoma State. You have a lot on this. What do you have?
Yeah, so we had been talking, you'd mentioned just kind of the lack of depth that Oklahoma State had. And you made a point, I don't remember exactly what it was, but about Ruby Malin throwing so much that Oklahoma State hadn't won a game since, was it the end of February? The end of February.
Without Ruby as a circle.
Ruby in the circle. That is everything. And I think that you're spot on. So Oklahoma State has some very good wins. And we saw them. There was a whole thing recently on Twitter because Ruby Malin was the co-pitcher of the year with Nyjah Kennedy. And it became a whole thing because I think that it was discussed that Ruby Malin had won it outright, but then another decision had been made and they made it right. And they made a co-pitcher of the year and they mentioned that it was because of a holistic conversation and discussion, which again makes absolutely no sense. But we're not talking about that. But Oklahoma State did win really big games, and they won games recently, too. So it was Georgia, UCLA, A&M, Nebraska, OU, Arizona, Texas that they had beat. However, Ruby Malin has thrown the third most pitches in the country. She's got 28 wins, which is also the third most. But she has thrown the most innings out of any Power 4 pitcher. She has 222 innings. She's just over a 2.1 ERA. And when you look at that, that's 8 games of legitimate opponents that they won, but she threw 50 innings in those 8 games. And again, you talk about if you're Stanford right now, you're able to get to her. There's nothing else that you've got to really worry about, I say. Obviously, you still got to figure it out, but again, she's the real threat. You look at the Stanford hitters, you've got Emily Jones hitting over 400. She's got 18 stolen bases, not a lot of power with her. And then you've got, of course, some of the senior leadership with Taryn Kerr and Kyra Chan, everything that they're doing. And then, of course, the Psycho in the circle. And this is a Stanford team that has made so many changes throughout the season that they are almost equipped and ready for anything, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's a lot, I guess, I don't want to say easier, but it soothes your mind a little bit when you have to prepare for one pitcher. And they're smart, right? They're smart kids and smart coaches. Here's Ruby Malin. This is Ruby Malin. Right. Let's figure her out, find out what she throws, what your best pitch is, what you're going to attack, what you're looking for. Ruby Malin in the Big 12 tournament,
quick.
And there's got to be some fatigue set in. Like I love her. Like I think she's an absolute stud. The way she's put her team on her back and just like, hey, I got this. Let's go. I can do this. But like at some point, everybody's human.
Yeah, she's tired.
I think Stanford has a shot to take advantage of that. And if they do, they would meet up with Nebraska. And we'll talk about that if we get there.
Yeah, really big stuff. I'm excited. I think I picked Stanford on our all ACC coverage after the selection show. I picked Stanford as the team that I think that is a non-host that can definitely make it out of the regional. I'm super fired up for this one. So I really hope that they prove me right because I would love that.
Yeah, I think so. And they're playing their best ball. Like they got healthy. They swept Florida State. They got destroyed by Florida State in the ACC tournament. Florida State just came out.
Yeah.
And then game over. Like, it was an hour, 20-minute game.
Insane. We were on a Phil show longer than the game lasted.
Yes.
It was crazy.
Yes. I think Florida State, like, turned around and was like, oh, game's over? Like, whatever. That's Florida State for you. Like, that you're not going to beat them 4 times. Most likely, you're not going to beat them 3 times. But anyway, we think Stanford has a good shot there.
Yeah, super excited. I want them to win that one bad. Almost as bad. I don't know. I like LSU losing too. So there's some teams I'm really rooting heavy.
And the ball flies in Baton Rouge. They have the short fences.
Yes, so true. And you look at because that's Virginia Tech.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's gonna
the power.
shoot
Yeah,
some
I hope
missiles out of that place.
Oh, let's go. But I feel like it flies kind of in Oklahoma too.
Yeah,
I feel like it flies.
well, yeah, look at the numbers. But their new field's a little bit bigger. But for LSU, I feel like they have that short wall, and maybe they're like low sea level.
Yeah.
But that would make it not. I don't know. Whatever. Virginia Tech's going to hit a lot of home runs at Baton Rouge, and so is Stanford and Stillwater. The next team that made it, Clemson, is head down to Athens. Georgia is the 10 seed. They have College of Charleston, UNCG, Clemson, and Georgia. How do you like this?
I would like it more if I could put a finger on Clemson. They're still the most confusing team in the country. I don't think they played well in the ACC tournament. I think they've got great potential. I just don't think they played well in the one game that we saw them. And so it's a matter of if Stanford shows up, if Clemson shows up as the team that they can be, I think we're rocking and rolling. If they show up as one of their alter egos, I don't know.
Alter egos is a great way to put it. I think Georgia has been playing their best ball
as of
late.
Yes.
Like they have been doing some really good stuff as of late.
Yeah.
And Clemson, they've shown signs of greatness. I really do think they've been hit with the injury bug, especially in the circle. Like they've been hurting there, and I think that's going to have a problem with them. Georgia can hit, they can pitch, they can play defense. Clemson's going to have their hands full, but there's definitely the potential there.
Right.
I mean, if Sierra Manis has gotten, maybe they lose that first game in the ACC tournament, gives her extended rest, keeps the ball down against Georgia. I think they have a great defense with, I talked about her to Kylie Chanel.
She's
and then
so good.
my girl, Sarah Bro at third grade, the freshman, and Taylor Pipkins, and who's the left fielder, Kylie
Johnson.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, Kylie Johnson. So they have the pieces there. I think they've been hit with the injury bug, but I mean, that's going to be a challenge. We're not going to lie about that.
Yeah, for sure. And they don't have anything overpowering, I think, offensively too. So I think that's where I would just love to see consistency from them. I think Jamison Brackenbrough is leading the offense, and she's, I think, 342. So
and she's the leadoff.
Yes, nothing that like stands out super big, but can definitely win games and go in there. I do think having Macy Cintron back the latter part of the season has been super helpful because she did not get a lot of innings in the circle, especially. She was the reigning ACC freshman of the year last year, came back injured first part of the season, did not get many innings at all pitching, and then has been doing well since. And I think has really helped Clemson in a lot of ways, both defensively and offensively. Yeah, so
for sure. I think injury bug really hurt them, but they have pieces. All right, next, Virginia was on pace to host the first half of the season, doing really well, and then hit some bumps, and they are headed down to Knoxville. Tennessee is the 7 seed.
Yeah.
And with Northern Kentucky, Indiana, Virginia, and Tennessee. What do you think about that one?
I think Indiana's always a threat because they hit really well, and that's what they've been known for. I do think Virginia could do some really good things here. I think they could make it a really long weekend for Indiana, for Tennessee, for whoever. I don't think Tennessee is the best team that they have been. I think that they've really fallen off as of late. They started the season with several weeks of number one
29
rankings.
wins in a row, or 20-some wins in a row.
It was a lot. You know, Carlin Pickens can't throw every game. I think she's fantastic. But again, a lack of depth maybe in the circle.
I will say that it's going to be hard for Virginia. You've got Carlin Pickens and you have Sage Marjeko too. So
right.
They're going to have to prepare for a couple pitchers that are really good and really different, which I think is going to be tough for Virginia. But Virginia, the way they use their pitching staff sometimes is like it works really well, and then sometimes it has you scratching your head.
Do you think Virginia kind of makes those decisions before, like so they know when they're pulling them regardless of how they're doing instead of just allowing the game to play out a little bit?
From an outside looking in, absolutely. Like, I'm like, let's get a feel.
Right.
And I was really excited when they let Taylor Smith, right?
Yeah, throw the
complete game shutout. I mean, no hitter, because early in the year they have actually pulled her from a no hitter. Like, it's like, Joanna Hardin's phenomenal coach.
Right.
What she's done at Virginia for them to be in the postseason for the past 3 years has never happened there.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking anything from her, but just from an outsider, an easy way to look at it, let's see how things are going. We don't have to put Eden Bingham in right now. I know she's like a security blanket for this team, but let's see what. I really think Taylor's really good.
Yeah.
I think she can do really good stuff. So we'll see how that goes. And if they do find a way out, they would be faced with the winner of the Georgia regional, either Clemson or Georgia. Virginia, I think 2 years ago, they were in Knoxville, so they know how that stadium works. They're prepared. The 5 seniors have been there. So
yeah, they do have good experience to that point. Jade Hilton and Macy Eaton has been having a fantastic season. She's hitting 443, 12 home runs, 70 hits, really good stuff. And then Bella Cabral being back and healthy was also big. She was down for a little bit, maybe early this season.
Around that Duke series.
Yeah. So excited for that there. Also, Virginia is having the best season that they've had win percentage-wise in over 20 years. This is the most wins that they've had since the early 2000s. So really good stuff that Coach Joe is doing out in Charlottesville. Beautiful stadium, too. We did get to enjoy
amazing.
Yeah, Palmer Park this last week. So that was a lot of fun.
Anyway, the next team that's in is Georgia Tech. They got in, and they're headed down to Gainesville. Florida is the 6th seed. They have FAMU, Texas State, Georgia Tech, and Florida. How do you feel about this?
They were at Florida last year, too, I believe. Or was it 2 years? They're all kind of running together. But so again, a team that is familiar with the scenery, knows what it feels like, hopefully, too, knows how to prepare a little bit better going into something like this. So this is a Georgia Tech team that it was very interesting listening to the conversation yesterday with I guess we listened to an older podcast with the people from DSR and the way that some of these things have shaken out or played out, I should say, with Georgia Tech. So there's all these mathematical equations and stuff, and the way that they've determined some of these win margins, they feel as though Georgia Tech, like if they should be winning blank percentage of their games, they're actually just underneath that because of the amount of one-run games that they've had. And that to me says a lot because, again, they're right there. And so the guy literally, I think, used the word is Georgia Tech has just been unlucky sometimes because they weren't able to scratch a win across. And there were a couple other teams that he actually compared them to that he felt like had maybe gotten lucky on the other side of that. And their win percentage was maybe a little bit higher than the mathematical equation indicated that it should be. So I think that this is a Georgia Tech team that's probably the best and most competitive Georgia Tech team that I've seen in several seasons running now. Their record doesn't show that as much because of literally the amount. I think we counted the other day. It was like
double digit.
11 or 12 of their losses were 2-run games or less. And most of them were 1-run games. Just super interesting.
I mean, I just think back just a couple days ago, the way they played Florida State.
Yeah.
Like,
that was a 1-run game.
Yes. That was
the series.
Yes. The series, extra innings,
literally.
1-run game. They go to ACC tournament. 1-run game. They were just.
And they came out and kicked Notre Dame's ass in the first game. Like, flat out had something to prove.
And then Florida State goes from that and kicks Stanford's ass.
Yeah.
Like, Georgia Tech is there.
Yeah.
Like, they're so close. Like, so close. So I think, in that regional, Texas State's going to be good, right? They're always good. They know how it's like in the postseason. They just won the conference tournament to make it in, or didn't win their conference tournament, so they're an at-large bid. So they're that good to make it in. So don't overlook Texas State, but I think Georgia Tech will surprise Florida. Florida remembers the Georgia Tech from last year, right? And they're going to get a Georgia Tech team that's gritty, fights, that took the series from Virginia Tech. So maybe they take them to 3 games. It'll be fun.
Addison Lushberg did make the ACC All-Tournament team, so she had a fantastic tournament. Alyssa Willer has been so good in their lineup. Grayson Tucker, Willer hitting 374, 15 home runs. So just good power. And then Grayson Tucker, 18 home runs. So this is a Georgia Tech team that can swing it.
And Madeline Johnson in the circle.
Oh, yeah. So much fun to watch.
She's been good.
Competitive.
Next, we have Louisville, last but not least. Louisville is heading out to Lincoln, Nebraska. Nebraska is the 5 seed. They have South Dakota State, Grand Canyon, Louisville, and Nebraska.
I do think Nebraska's the 4 seed. So who would that put them against?
4 seed.
That's okay. We can look at it later.
It would be the 13 seed. where that is. But anyway, I had them with Oklahoma State.
With the Oklahoma State regional, right? Yeah,
Yep, they are you said
because
4
they're
seed?
4.
5-12, 4-13. Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
That can be. They got some ACC and ACC super regional matchups.
Let's go. I'm here for it because
Yeah.
that means we're going up in the city.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about Louisville going to Nebraska?
Well, obviously, I think the storyline for Nebraska is Jordy Fromm, and just how amazing she is. She's so good. You look at some of her numbers. I was looking at them earlier. I don't have them written down. I think she's hit some insane number of home runs too this year, like over 15. And of course, what she's able to do in the circle, just so good. I do think this is a Louisville team that is so much fun to watch and very, I think the word we would use is unorthodox because they are straight speed. They have limited power. They do lead the country in triples. So that's fun, but that's also because they're so freaking fast. You look at who they have in their lineup. Madison Pickens leads the offense. She's got 85 hits. She's hitting 470.
She was so good this week.
Literally
Couldn't
so
get
good.
her out.
So good. And then you've got Chelsea Mack, and she is just the stolen base assassin. She's hitting 445. She also has 85 hits, and she has 44 stolen bases. She leads the country in stolen bases. So this is a Louisville team that is competitive. They're gritty. They play good defense. Coach April has done a fantastic job at just coaching them up and figuring out how to bring in good talent. I think the one piece for her is going to be how do I keep them in Louisville? And that means we got to win because we've seen some of the best players. Like they love their opportunity, but they want to try and go win a national championship and transfer to a different school. I want her to retain some of this talent.
She keeps getting great.
She gets great players.
It's Charlerins, Corbiotis. I mean, like past 2 years are big pieces that left. For me, I think Louisville is going to surprise Nebraska because if I think about a Nebraska team or like the traditional Big Ten teams, they don't get to play on dirt.
True.
And they don't get to practice on dirt
Yeah.
until April, maybe. And if you're going to beat Louisville, you've got to be fundamentally sound in the infield. Like Chelsea Mack gets on base consistently with 5 infielders.
I was just going to say, can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
In their game, they had 5 infielders because they pull one of the outfielders and 5 infielders, and she still gets an infield single.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And I looked at Nebraska's fielding percentage. It's like 973. Like it's not great. And I think if you're not going to play great defense against Louisville, and they're not used to playing a team like Louisville. Most teams aren't, but especially a team like Nebraska that's in the Midwest. I think about it like football. Like the Big Ten in football were like run the ball, like big linemen, run the ball up the middle. That's the style of Big Ten play. And obviously it's worked. They've won the past couple national championships. But softball wise, like they don't play small ball. They don't play the speed. They play long ball. They play doubles. They play powerful pitching. But small ball can really hurt powerful pitching. I think Louisville actually has a pretty good shot of making things interesting in Lincoln.
I'm excited. Yeah, I think this is, like I said about Coach April, I think this is a very well-coached team. I do hope they're prepared. This is a team that will probably lack postseason experience, but I think that if they can just worry about who they are and what they do well, they could go out there and ruin somebody's day. And I always use that phrase, but that's just because I think people count people out or count teams out sooner than they should. And if you're not ready and playing your best softball because you're already looking past this opponent and on to the next one, it's a long day and we've all been there, I think. So.
And Nebraska's going to score runs.
Totally.
Like they can hit. They can really hit. Jory Fromm, formerly Ball, and Alexa Jensen and Circle are really good, but they can hit. They took the series against UCLA. They beat UCLA in the Big Ten championship, and UCLA still a top 8 seed, but we won't go into that. But they have beaten good teams. So they're going to score runs, but I think Louisville will just throw a different arm at them every 2 innings if they need to, and they're not afraid to do that. I think they have most appearances by pitchers in the ACC.
You're right. Yeah. It was some interesting stat of I think over 140 appearances between their pitching staff over 50 games. So minimum almost 3 pitchers a game.
Yeah. Zabala out there, Brooke Gray out there. Like you're just going to throw everybody out of it. So it'll be interesting. The environment there will be really cool. I think Nebraska's been waiting for something like this. So Louisville's going to experience something really good, but I think they're going to surprise. I think Nebraska will be like, well, what is this? Yeah. I guess my last question for you, Alex, who do you think is going to make it to OKC?
Ooh.
No,
I think Florida State has actually a fantastic opportunity. It's going to be a hard road, as is anything else. I think that it matches up well, though. This is a super regional, and I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yes.
Looking
that'd be
of
fun.
course, looking past the regional, just because you got to just think right on paper they should win. They're going to get tested in regionals, and I think that will help them in super regionals if they were to make it. I would really love that UCLA Florida State super regional matchup. So right now my money would be on Florida State. Love watching the Blue Devils play. I've been a big Duke fan the last couple of seasons. I think just watching a lot of these players develop and go on through their careers has been fun. So I'm definitely a Duke fan as well. I think they're
And they
really
match up
hard.
with Arkansas in supers, which I think
Right.
is a good matchup for them. And I also think Virginia Tech gets out of LSU. I
hope
really
so.
do.
I really think Virginia Tech and Stanford can both get out of those regionals.
Yeah, and then Virginia Tech going back to Bama, there's some bad blood there that I think Virginia Tech's ready to get. So I really do think, I guess the question should be who gets out of regionals. I think Florida State.
Yep.
I really do think Virginia Tech gets out of Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
I think Duke gets out. And I think Stanford, if they can take out Ruby, they get out.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
4.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
And then I definitely hope for some upsets throughout the other regionals. I think realistically, again, on paper, those hosts should win. But I would love to see like a Georgia Tech upset a team. I would love to see a Louisville upset a team.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
But like honestly, I think 4 teams have a realistic chance of getting out of the regional matchup wise. All right, guys.
Thanks for watching. Enjoy.
Like, subscribe. Bye.